Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Al-Quran, the Jewels of the Quran, and we are using the translation of Muhammad al-Qasim on page 69. The very last notion that we have read and shed light on is the Master of the Day of Judgment, but that's already, once we speak in English, it's already one possible recitation, Maliki Yawm al-Din, and there is the Maliki Yawm al-Din, another recitation, which should be also included in the discussion. In both cases, we talk about the hereafter, and we talk about a day, because Maliki Yawm al-Din, ad-Din and ad-Dain, they have the same form and the same root, and Deen is religion, and ad-Dain is debt, and one is indebted, and one is practically is born into debt, not money wise, but in terms of the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that to explain, one might use the logic that Imam Ghazali uses in his works, that if somebody complains that he is broke, he has nothing, and you might say something like, would you take 10,000 golden dinars in exchange for your eyesight? And immediately he would say, no, then you do have something valuable. This is not to put a specific value. This is impossible, and we shouldn't really. But the idea is that we do have that kind of debt upon birth, and we should be thankful for all these ni'am that we are aware of, and ni'am that we are not aware of. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تَحْصُوهَا. There is no way you can enumerate all the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the day of judgment is a day of also holding people accountable. So this life is simply a stage, a phase, and like the Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith, that this life is like a traveler who sat in the shade of a tree for 1 hour, and then he resumed. That hour is your life, 50, 60, 70, 100, rarely above that number, subhanallah. It's 1 hour still, metaphorically speaking. The words of God, you alone we worship, Iyyaka na'bud, comprises two great parts. One is worship with sincerity in relation to Him, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala especially, and this is the spirit of the straight path, as you will know it from the book of vice of influence and ostentation, from the revival, from the Ihya. The second is the belief that none other than God deserves worship. One should not, of course, no one, nothing else deserves worship, and people should be very careful lest they are committing shirk, and that's the only sin that is in the absolute sense unforgivable. And this is the essence of belief in divine unity, which is basically divine oneness, though the original etymology of the word unity alludes to oneness anyhow, but the use of unity, it's a use of in the sense of multiple parts, divine unity. In the case of the Trinity, I'm not saying that it is logical, but the idea is, as a linguistic use of unity between the three persons of the triune of the Trinity. That's basically an appropriate use without endorsing the concept. This is achieved by the abandonment of belief in man's ability. It doesn't mean that when we talk about unity, the three persons will not disappear from existence. Just think about which one came into existence first, whether the Holy Spirit was always there, because in the Quran, really, and Islam, the Holy Spirit, Spirit of the Holy, Ar-Ruh al-Qudus, that's Jibreel alayhi salam, the Archangel, and Jesus Christ, peace upon him, the third one. So, which one came to existence, and whether unity means that two of them would not exist. There was an exhibition in Madrid it was an exhibition, counter-reformation art, at the Prado Museum. Massive paintings, counter-reformation, and one of them in particular caught my eyes. An artistic representation of God, the Godhead, the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit is represented in the painting as a white bird, and obviously they were discussing the fate of a deceased priest, and I'm pretty sure, because I spoke with Christian clergy about this painting, and one prominent one said that he would never paint this painting because it reflects three different wills. If you are going to discuss the fate of a deceased person, and the continuous existence of the three will always be problematic at any rate. And in the Quran, of course, just think about one of the verses: تلك الرسل فضلنا بعضهم على بعض منهم من كلم الله ورفع بعضهم درجات وآتينا عيسى ابن مريم البينات وأيدناه بروح القدس. So in that verse, just a couple of verses literally before the verse of the throne in Surah Al-Baqarah, these were the messengers. We have ranked some above others, and we have given this is the royal we, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have given the Jesus Christ the clear signs, and we have strengthened him with the Spirit of the Holy, Jibreel alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is absolutely separate from his creation, including the messengers, and including Jesus Christ, and including the Spirit of the Holy. So the three do exist, but they are three different. One is a human being, another is an angel, and of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is achieved by the abandonment of belief in man's ability and power, and by the knowledge that God alone is alone in the execution of all works, and that man is not independent by himself and without his help, without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus his words, "You alone we worship," are an indication of making the soul beautiful by worship and sincerity, while his words, "You alone we implore for help, وإياك نستعين," are an indication of its purification from belief in partnership, shirk, and from paying attention to man's ability and power. You do have an ability, you do have power, but they come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever you acquire, you achieve, always think that, have the belief that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who send these your way. This is why, as an example, uh, Qarun, who was really from the people of Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, who was very, very, very rich. When he was asked about the source, when he was asked about the source of his wealth, he attributed that to himself in the absolute sense. إنما أوتيت على علم عندي. Thus one should recognize always that what you have is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever good and wholesome thing, but always for the right intention. So, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, you alone we implore for help, are an indication of its purification from belief in partnership and from paying attention to man's ability and power. We have already mentioned that traversing the straight path is supported by two things. One is purification of the soul by the denial of that which is not befitting, and the other is making it beautiful by the achievement of that which should be achieved. And these two are comprised in these two sentences from the sum total of the sentences of the surah of opening, Al-Fatiha. The words of God guide us along the straight path, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, are a prayer which is the marrow of worship. And since it is su'al and dua, this is the مخ العبادة. It comes from a hadith. It has a weak chain of narrators, but definitely asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supplicating is very befitting to the slaves of God, the servants of God. And this is, of course, from the book of mention of God and invocations. The Al-Adhkar wal-Da'wat from the Ihya. These words of his make man aware of the need for entreaty and supplication to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, which from the spirit of servitude, and also make man aware that the most important of his needs is guidance along the straight path, for it is by following this path that advancement towards God, may he be exalted, is, as already mentioned, accomplished. The words of God guide us along the straight path. Hidden Salat Mustaqim, our prayer, which is the matter of worship, as you will know it from the book of mention of God and vocations, from the books of the revival, the Ihya. These words of his make man aware of the need for entreaty and supplication to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, which form the spirit of servitude, and also make man aware that the most important of his deeds is guidance along the straight path, for it is by following this path that advancement towards God subhanahu wa ta'ala is, as already mentioned, accomplished. The Prophet ﷺ, in a hadith, he drew a line, and along this line, this line would represent the straight path, and he drew other lines next to it, parallel to it, And the meaning is that there will be a temptation. There will be temptations, uh, right next to the straight path, in the sense of, uh, say, if we are to uh, summarize in a sense what Imam Ghazali went through, what the nature of his work. He was aware, of course, and he defended the Islamic worldview in the sense of helping people to be on the straight path. In fact, when he speaks about the path to the hereafter, this is very important. He was aware of one of these parallel lines coming from um, Greek metaphysics. That's one thing. So it is external. And number two, the one line came from the Batinites, and that's number two. So that's internal in a sense. He addressed other distractions on the that one would definitely face on the to maintain himself or herself on the straight path. Today is not different from yesterday. We still have challenges, parallel lines coming from external sources. Let's say Western, and by Western, it's not really the geography. I'm talking about many contemporary and also postmodern schools of thought that breached certain intellectuals and students, and even more than this in the Arab and Muslim world. That's something that is similar, not identical, to Imam Ghazali dealing with Greek metaphysics. So today, you can talk about French philosophers, you can talk about British atheists. The idea is something external, and internally, you might find something like the Qur'aniyun, as they call themselves, who would reduce the Islamic worldview only to, in a specific way, to the Quran, eliminating the Sunnah, which is really impossible. I'm just giving this as one example. It's impossible. There's no way. There's no way that this would be valid. This is not really the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And Sirat al-Mustaqim, it's a straight path, and it's only one. And from what I understand is that a Sirat in itself, while it is singular, it practically it has no plural. It's not in use. Some people try to go around this issue by having a plural in different languages. Say in Persian, in Farsi, Sirat becomes the plural of which becomes Siratay, but that's not really what we are talking about. There's only one path that one should stick to, but you need also to verify it, and do not jump over the history of Islamic, Muslim scholars who are really known There are those today that who would call prominent people, and I'm sure that they don't intend their statements. They are influential, but when you are a popular scholar on online and you are asked about whether one should belong to a specific school of jurisprudence, and you say no, you would say something, and he did say that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala did not say follow Shafi'i, that follow the Quran, follow the Sunnah, but that's not. This is very dangerous, because soon the people either they will take things at face value. They might be literalists, and this will cause a serious problem. Once we come to the anthropomorphic verses of the Quran. Even Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal himself accepted, and he saw the need, for the use of allegorical interpretation, at least in the case of three texts. God's words, the path of those on whom you have bestowed your favors, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم are a reminder of his favor to his friend subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his revenge upon and anger towards his enemies, in order that encouragement may be given and awe may be excited from the depth of the hearts of people. We have already mentioned that the stories of prophets and God's enemies related in the Quran form two great divisions of Quranic verses. Thus, the surah of opening, Surah Al-Fatiha, has comprised 8 of the 10 divisions of the Quran: divine essence, attributes and works, description of the life to come, and of the straight path, together with both its sides, that is, purification of the soul, the tazkiyah, and making it beautiful, tahliyah, description of God's favor to his friends and of his anger towards his enemies, and finally the description of the resurrection. This is a physical thing, this is real. Only 2 divisions. Just remember that Imam Al-Ghazali rendered the philosophers who denied resurrection, he declared them non-believers on this account. There are 3, of course, accounts. 3 out of 20. There is other 17 that's in the Tahawut philosophy. Only 2 divisions of the Quran fall outside this surah, namely God's argument with infidels and judgments of jurists, 2 subjects from which the sciences of theology and jurisprudence stem off. From this, it becomes clear that, in reality, these 2 subjects fall into the lowest of the grades of religious sciences. It is only the love of wealth and influence obtainable by them which has raised them to a higher status. This is the end of chapter 12, if you will, of the Jawahir, of the Juz of the Quran. Number 13 is the surah of opening. The surah of opening, Surah Al-Fatiha, is the key to all doors of paradise. Surah Al-Fatiha, Miftahul Jannah. We'll get to this inshallah in the next session. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.